Hello and welcome to Dingoes Ate My Podcast. This week we're discussing the episode Over the Rainbow. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
Alrighty, Dave. So this episode originally aired May 8th in the year 2001. And do you have any idea how many people might have sat down to view this episode?
Hmm. Again, hopefully it probably stuck with the amount we had from last week, sticking up in the 4 Miller, I believe it was.
So
Or
we were at 4.56 last week. We've actually gone up this week to 5.03 million. So last week did its job very well.
could give kind of the cliffhanger of, oh man, they're in a new dimension.
Well, yeah, and we've got Cordelia's in the new dimension, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So I could see why people would want to tune in and see what
Yeah,
happens
in those
next.
sorts of cases. I think the annoying thing is sort of there isn't anything specifically kind of sort of staying. What other stuff was kind of going on around the time, or how much advertising they kind of pumped into this to really put it into the end of this season.
So here's always the tricky part with this. I can't say for certain, but you also have to remember that this is a show on the WB, and the WB did not have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to pull up. Just as a example, like top rated shows for 2001. So for this is for next season. It's 2001, 2002. But
Oh,
the number one show in America next year would be Friends, and it was averaging 15 million people.
yeah, that's understandable.
Right? Like, even if we go down to like the 30th most popular show, it's still at 7.7 million. Like, it's still blowing them out of the water.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, this is a hit for the WB, but if it was on any other network, it would probably get canceled.
Either that or be on at the very late hours or no busy sort of time.
Yeah, I mean the WB was a small network trying to find its feet at the time, and like there's a reason that Buffy and Angel stayed around so long is because they were like relatively stable ratings grabs. Like they were
Hmm.
kind of hit the same number every week, so it was reliable. Anyway, so let us talk about video games that released this week, Dave. We've only got two, but I would argue that they're two pretty good ones.
Intriguing.
Alrighty. So
Hmm.
on the same day that this episode aired, there was what I would consider a huge release on PC and PS2. I'm not sure how many other people would agree with me, though. It was a little game called Myst 3 Exile.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever played the Myst games?
Not with Mist, no.
No? Okay. They are a very, from the ones I've played, I think I've only played like the first three, I want to say. Um, they're quite fun, but they are not for, how do I put this? They are very much puzzle games, so if you don't enjoy puzzle games, you probably won't like them.
Okay. Because I was trying to pinpoint exactly what it was, because the name was familiar, but I was getting mixed with either a civilization kind of style game or more of the, again, you were mentioning puzzle solving kind of games.
Yeah, no, they're very much puzzle games, and like, so the first one, I don't remember the other ones, but like the first one takes place on this island, and you have to go around and solve different puzzles on the island and stuff, and it's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
done in like a first person perspective, and it's quite a bit of fun, but it's not for everyone. The other game that released this week on May 14th. Now, this had already come to other platforms, but it had finally made its way to the PS2, and that's a little game called Crazy Taxi.
There you go. Again, it's been sticking around. It started out years ago in the arcades and whatnot for that.
Yeah, so it was 99 release in arcades. Dreamcast got it in 2000, and now it's moving over to the PS2 and the GameCube, I think, at some point too.
I wouldn't be surprised with the GameCube, but yeah, it's always fairly good for getting a crazy taxi coded game. Though in my case, my first experience with any of that style game was the rip off that was brought up by The Simpsons.
Oh, that was what was that one? That wasn't Hit and Run.
The Simpsons Road Rage, I
Road
believe, was the
Rage.
first one,
That's the
and then
one.
later on it was Hit and Run.
Yeah. Okay, so I've technically played Simpsons Road Rage. I've just not played the version that you're expecting.
I suppose there might have been some differences. I only vaguely remember playing, I believe it was the GameCube version. I'm not sure if there was that much differences between other releases, though.
So you see, to my knowledge, the Xbox, PS2, and GameCube version are all basically the same. Like there might be slight differences, but whatever. But you
Uh,
see, I played it on the Game Boy Advance,
oh, that explains it.
which I'm gonna throw something in chat for you here, just so you can see what the game looks like. Because um, I mean, here's what I'll say about it. Like it's impressive that they got the game to run on a GBA, but they probably shouldn't have.
The simple fact of they could have done it, but they probably shouldn't have.
Well, I'm gonna just throw a screenshot into chat here, and you can tell me for yourself. Like it's impressive that it works, but it's also
On the one hand, it makes sense. But on the other hand, it's a case of you would just throw it up as a rip-off of one of the old-fashioned bit style racing games or other sorts of things. But that's mildly intriguing. I might have to actually look to see if I can find a video of gameplay of that sort of stuff.
you can find them on there's a few on YouTube. It's again, it's impressive that they got it running on a Game Boy Advance, but some of the perspective stuff when you're driving isn't very good.
Yeah, it's kind of what you have to deal with the style of the stuff that you're working with.
Especially when you hit jumps, because then it can be a little yeah. Anyway, um, number one movie in America this week, Dave. Any guesses?
See, movie. Then from Winter's Week. Nothing immediately coming to mind, so I think it'd probably just be safe to go with what was on last week.
Yes, it is the same. It is still The Mummy Returns. The Rock is still dominating at the box office.
Okay, I don't specifically remember too much, but he was only in like one or two
Oh
scenes.
no, Dave, that was a joke. I think he's in that movie. From what I've read, I think he's in for maybe a minute.
Which was probably about as much as the budget could possibly allow.
I want to say that movie cost a lot of money, though.
Yeah, which is why they could only spend so much money of having that much of a big star within the movie.
Okay, so I'm gonna say like at this is 2001. The Rock is not a big star. I mean, he is, but he isn't. Like he's a
It's
wrestling
kind of a
star.
case of they're still trying to find his footing with him. He's still somewhat a babyface, or they're starting him out as a heel now.
So uh, at this point when he left to go do the movie, at this point, like when the movie's coming out, he's babyface
Okay.
because of course he is because he has a movie coming out,
Hmm.
and you're not going to send a heel on a red carpet because I mean that would be interesting, but yeah.
Despite the fact that they usually do that nowadays with a lot of them, or not so much.
I no. So it's a different company now than it was then. Um, the big thing is like Vince really hates that The Rock got too famous to come back to work for him. So now he's kind of like nobody's allowed to be a bigger star than the company. So nobody really gets nobody in that company is going to get huge movie offers right now with maybe like one
Damn.
or two exceptions. Because he lost like his biggest draws because he lost The Rock, he lost Stone Cold, he lost all these guys that he made
Hmm.
big stars, and then he's like, oh well, fuck this, I'm not doing that again.
Well, Smart, I suppose, in his case, but also a case of damn, that's too bad for any other potential uh, people on that sort of list.
I mean, like, Roman does some movie work, but he's related to The Rock, and I think Becky Lynch has done like a movie or two, but they don't really get the same kind of. And they have to book everything through the company, so you know. Also, Vince retired recently, so that's a thing.
Oh, there you go. Depending on how much control he still kind of has on things.
So currently he is still on the board of directors and a majority share owner, but he does not have any creative or like in charge of talent kind of power. So the show
Which,
might. So the
which
show.
of course you say, but then of course, who knows how much his influence kind of has on things.
Yeah, yeah, but the show might stop sucking now. I'm just saying it was not good. Anyway,
Mm,
there's a reason I haven't watched it in like a year or
mm.
more. Anyway, number one song in America this week.
Nah, I'm still thinking it's probably the same from last week as well with Lanimore said, I believe it was.
No, it
Or
was "All for You" by Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson, there it was. Where did she come from, though? Jesus. Me and my brain for this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just gonna say, Dave, like Janet Jackson's gonna be. Actually, she doesn't have that much longer of a reign at the top of the charts, but she'll be there for the rest of our discussions.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving along to the episode. Cordelia finds herself in a new dimension where she is chased down by a green demon who captures and declares her a cow, or human slave. She is sold at the market, and her demon owner forces her into a collar that can be used to shock her when she doesn't obey. She then, as she later mucks out the stables, wondering aloud if she can remove the collar, a runaway slave warns her through a hole in the wall that she shouldn't bother fighting. Cordelia is unable to see that the woman is Fred from her vision. Crazy after all these years in Pylea. Before any information can be exchanged, Fred is caught and taken away. Later, Cordelia follows her owner, carrying purchases from the market until a vision causes her to fall and drop everything. She reveals that she saw a villager being attacked by a Droken in her vision, and the crowd gathers and declares her to be cursed. Cordelia is brought before Constable Narwick and explains that she has precognitive visions. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, the group realizes Cordelia has been sucked into the host's home dimension of Pylea, which the host says he was glad to leave and will never ever go back to. He also cannot provide information on how to access Pylea from Earth, since his coming from the former to the latter was mostly unintentional on his part. Caritas, the bar that he runs, was once the abandoned building where the portal from Pylea deposited him. Angel, desperate to save Cordelia, reads from the book to reopen the portal, but nothing happens. Wesley's research discovers that the portals can only be opened so many times before they become cold. This means that the gang must find a new hotspot to open the portal. The host seeks help from a psychic friend in order to find a hotspot, but she won't provide the information until he agrees to go with the others to finish his business in Pylea. Wesley finds out that the portal scatters multiple people who go through it, and they realize that Cordelia won't arrive in Pylea with Landok. Gavin Park, a lawyer from Wolf and Hart, appears at the hotel with a colleague and informs Angel that the law firm plans to buy the hotel when the current lease expires. Angel, uninterested in dealing with the lawyers, vamps out, and Gavin takes his leave, but not before promising to make Angel's life difficult. Angel leaves a message on an answering machine for Gunn, who is elected to go reconcile with his old gang, with key information in case they don't make it back from Pylea. Angel pulls his car up to the gate of Paramount Studios, following the host's information that that it is a psychic hotspot. Wesley's research revealed that if the gang used the car to travel through the portal, it should allow them to stay together. Although Gunn had initially stated that George's death made him realize he's needed in this dimension, Angel's distressing phone message persuaded him to join the mission. Wesley reads from the book and the final goodbyes to L.A. Angel drives his car through the portal. However, the book is left behind. As the car arrives in daytime Pylea, Angel rushes to cover himself before realizing that the two suns are not fatal to vampires. Happy and amazed, Angel goes off to gather branches to hide the car while enjoying the rare opportunity to be in the sunlight. After covering the car, the guys realize that the book is gone, and Lauren is horrified. Wesley realizes that the book must have been bound to Earth, and Angel points out that they can't return home without Cordelia anyway, so finding another way to open a portal will have to wait until after she's rescued. Meanwhile, Cordelia is taken before a tribunal and tested to see if she is affected with a curse. Afflicted with a curse. They test her using hot pokers and sharp needles and unanimously decide that she is indeed cursed and take her away. In town, the host advises Wesley, Angel, and Gunn to stay to the shadows, as humans are treated as slaves. He tries to get help from an old friend, but is met with a hostile reception. As he is considered to have deserted his people, chased by villagers, the gang is eventually caught and tied up in the middle of town. They are taken to a dungeon and chained up, and eventually taken to be sentenced to death by the monarch. Instinctively, they try to escape, but they discover that the monarch is a very contented-looking Cordelia wearing sequin bikini and many jewels. Dun dun dun. So, what did you think of this episode, Dave?
Well, let's see. It was interesting enough with kind of bouncing between the two perspectives of Earth and Paella. Again, also seeing the couple things from the last episode sort of coming together, being this woman got transported to this other dimension when she read through the book, Cordelia having the interactions and whatnot there, and just a couple interactions, just the four boys once they get there, Angel being excited to be out in the sunlight, the fact that they lost the book, the host with his homecoming, just it was comedy gold in some cases, just hilarious and fun. And just the case of with everything that happened with Cordelia, with her first experiences there, with how everything was looking, and then just the end of the episode, her sitting on the throne in her outfit, being like, "Oh hi guys," just like, "Oh god, what the heck did we miss?"
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I love that like this episode and the next two are gonna reference like kids' books or stories about like a protagonist leaving their world and going to like a mystical one. I love that they're kind of like even the episode titles are really well thought out. And it's
definitely is. I think the one particular thing is I'm questioning whether or not it's going to be going through. I'm not sure if you know the specific name of it, the isekai route that they have in Japanese anime with the same sort of story concept, where the main difference from it and the couple books that they're referencing through these episodes is the character gets transported to a different dimension and stays there, in comparison to this where it's a trip in a whole new world, but they most likely return at the end of the story.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't think this really counts as a spoiler, but they're gonna make it back to Earth.
I think as it was, I was thinking that that was going to be the story. It's the oh man trip to a whole new dimension, but they'll most likely be going back to Earth because gosh darn it, they have a job to do.
Yeah, and it's a whole lot. I'm sure it's a whole lot cheaper to shoot in their already built LA sets than it is to shoot on location for this.
So, additionally, I'm not really sure about your particular concept of cowboy sort of world. This definitely seems more medieval, just with its particular sort of style. There's the bits of technology with the specific collar and other little things, but on whole, this definitely seems very medieval sort of style culture.
See, I was gonna say medieval at first, but I feel like it looks like a little too technologically advanced to be medieval. But maybe I'm wrong because I feel like it has more of like a Wild West town kind of look. I guess no. I guess the buildings aren't quite as well built as they would be for like a Wild West town. Yeah, you're probably right. It is probably more medieval. Anyway, so a couple of pop culture references from this episode. Uh, I'm
Oh,
sure I'm sure you've picked up all of them, but I just want to go through a few of them. So Cordelia taps her heels together 3 times, which is obviously a reference to the Wizard of
my
Oz. I love that she like taps them together, and she's like, "Well, it was worth a try."
God.
They reference Mister Rogers' neighborhood as well, because Lauren says it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. All right.
Oh man, I missed that.
And there's also a Xena Warrior Princess one where Gunn says they're afraid of Xena. I mean, I think she's kind of fly.
I vaguely remember him saying that, but I'm not too knowledgeable with Xena the Warrior Princess.
I'm not overly as well. I've maybe seen like a handful of episodes because they're talking about like Lauren's people being very xenophobic, and he mishears it and hears Xena, and that's the
Ah,
joke.
mhm.
It's a pretty good joke, I will admit. Anyway,
Yes.
for international titles for this episode, we have two. So in French, it just translates as "Over the Rainbow." Nothing fancy there. However, in German, it translates as "Prisoners of the Dimension."
There you go.
I feel like "Over the Rainbow" is the better one, but
Yeah, as it is. With the other one, it kind of gives the spoiler of, haha, the book doesn't come with you.
that's true. Alrighty, so if there's nothing else about this episode, next week we'll be discussing the episode Through the Looking Glass.
And of course, with the rest of these episodes, it just adds on.
So, we're trapped in the Pylea dimension. Angel and the gang work overtime to survive. Cordelia finds herself appointed ruling princess of Pylea by an order of priests and is ordered to mate with a creature called the Gruselog. Meanwhile, Angel saves a runaway human slave, and Wesley and Gunn manage to escape from the castle, only to end up captives of human Pylean rebels plotting to overthrow the monarchy.
Ah,
So I have good news. We're going to get more Fred next episode and in the season finale, because Fred
ah,
is good.
that's good. Duly noted. Not sure how, but duly noted.
Well, let's just say Fred is going to be an important character later on,
Ah, it is.
like a very important character. And no, that's all I'm going to say. Also, in this episode, we did get one other thing that I haven't mentioned. We got a new character that debuted, Gavin Park. He was the Asian lawyer who came to the hotel.
Ah, yes, when he came in.
Yes, okay. He is going to pop up throughout season 3 and 4, and he will be an agent for Wolfram and Hart. So he will be somewhat important moving forward.
Just some mild cases of, you're going to be a thorn in our side, aren't you?
Yes, and he's also played by Daniel Day Kim, so I was super happy when I saw his name in the credits. I was like, yay! Because Daniel Day Kim's cool. Anyway, Kate, was there anything else you wanted to bring up about this?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Cool. So in that case, I have been Paul.
And I'm Dave.